Variable milfoil is an invasive aquatic plant that has been in New Hampshire water since the 1960s. It makes the water unpleasant and difficult to recreate in. Milfoil decreases shorefront property values, which in turn increases property taxes for those not on the water. In recent years, many groups have been mobilizing to combat this noxious weed. Tools used to combat milfoil include herbicides, hand pulling, and dash units. That's short for Diver Assisted Suction Harvester. We'll focus on these units. It's important that we distinguish between the bad invasive weed and a common look-alike. Variable milfoil is often very dense, green or brownish, and can grow over 10 feet long. The more space used by natural plants, the less space there is for the invasive milfoil to grow. Our particular board concentrates mostly on one lake, Winnipesaukee. But as you can see, there's quite a lot of shoreline, 182 miles and over 60 miles in Moultonborough alone. That's a lot to cover for just a few people. So in Moultonborough's case, we look at a map and parcel up the shoreline into small portions that many volunteers called weed watchers scan periodically for milfoil and report to a contact person who in turn tells the manager in charge of directing the removal of the weed. GPS points are taken to give the driver of a dash unit a general location, and looking for foam markers placed by weed watchers helps them zero in on milfoil infestations so they don't waste time searching. A dash boat is a stripped-down pontoon, or party boat, that's been outfitted with pump for creating a sort of giant vacuum cleaner with a 50-foot hose that a diver brings with him to the bottom of the lake. About a half an hour of prep time is needed before the work begins. While the tender of the boat gets the pump going and prepares things on deck, the diver, or divers, put on their gear and get set up in the water. The small yellow hose is used as part of a supplied air system as an alternative to carrying heavy scuba tanks. This larger black hose is the one that will provide suction from plant to boat. The hose may be attached to a diver's wetsuit or handheld. Divers are trained to gently dig up and release the root while holding the vacuum nozzle above the bottom to suck up only the milfoil and avoid vacuuming everything else. This one digs out the plant with one hand while sucking up the foliage and debris with the hose. The suction helps collect the entire plant and its fragments that would otherwise regrow. You can also see that a cloud of loose sediment is collected, preventing the total loss of visibility that a diver alone would create. It's important to be selective and only pull the invasive, leaving the native species alone. Above the surface, the tender is also at work. Besides keeping an eye on the diver for safety and possible hand signals, he also makes sure the pump is running efficiently and that the hose isn't getting clogged. Water, milfoil, silt, sand, rocks, and other debris pour from the hose onto a tray made from a coarse mesh screen. The water, sand, and mud will hopefully sift through the screen and return back to the lake, while the milfoil and other solid materials are trapped on top so that the tender can rake them off the chute and into either mesh bags or totes for transporting back to shore. One day's work can yield up to 20 bags of milfoil, or as few as 1 or 2 if the weed is sparse and the diver is working in rocks or hardpan as opposed to sand or silt. A smaller dash unit enables the harvesting to be done in tight, shallow areas and can be easily towed by a diver as he swims, avoiding use of the boat motor and time-consuming prep and dismantling at each work location. After a long 6-hour day, it's time to head in, where the bags or totes of milfoil will be offloaded into a truck or trailer to be checked in and emptied by volunteers. Containers may then be reused for the next day's work.